those guys would want to see if they can see it, otherwise it takes up so
Went
much.
from 5 years ago, it was $11,000, to $17,000.
At a
More than
time,
this time, plus like a numerous month, I haven't even told me they're gonna start building it yet, that was 3 months ago.
and then we go.
Very good.
And you have that, and all that.
Yeah.
So, all right, I got 5 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start with routine business. As always, the Open Meetings Act is posted on the northwest wall. All the rules and regs. Lisa, go ahead and call the roll.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean,
Here.
Vance,
Here.
and Brad is absent.
Do we have to excuse his absence or is he allowed to?
We did know he was going to be gone.
Yeah, he did let us know. If you'd all join me in the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. Move on to the consent agenda. Hopefully you got a chance to review everything. As always, you can approve all items in one motion, or you can consider them separately.
To approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Go ahead and call roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Dustin,
Yes. All right. Move on to the mayor's appointments and reports. I don't have any appointments this month. Mostly caught up. There's a couple I haven't been able to catch up with folks, but we'll get those up to date soon. My report, I've been traveling a lot, so I don't have much to report other than I can tell you by the last 2 weeks I've been in Nashville and Chicago, and it makes me appreciate small town living so much more. So there might be things we don't have, but we also have a lot to be thankful for. So that's my report. No public hearings tonight or old business, so we will move on to the regular agenda. Item 6. First item is to discuss and consider a special designated liquor license for Yogi's Place. Probably have it, maybe have a chance to review it in your packet, and Yogi's here if he wants to. I'm sorry, Greg is here if you'd like to make any comments, or you don't have to.
No, we want to have on this day, the September 16th, we're, want to have a customer appreciation day, so we're gonna serve sandwiches and sell a little beer and, fence off the back like we need to, and then also it's Kathy and I's be our 40th, so we're gonna throw that in on it too, so 40th wedding anniversary, so.
First year you get to write off your anniversary.
Yeah. First time I get to drink it, man.
Kathy's the one who'll be getting all the sympathy cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So move to approve the special designated liquor license for Yogi's Place LLC for a customer appreciation event to be held at 635 East 4th Street on September 16th, 2023 from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Go ahead and call roll.
Vance,
Yes.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Next item is to discuss and consider a recommendation from the park board. I think Cody's here standing in for Brian.
I am, Brian could not be here, so I guess what we're looking at is, you guys have those, I know, maybe, JC, he's here, he doesn't have this here. You can look at that, but we've, had inquiries about shutting off the roundabout on the south end of the track and to implement all field events in the same area, mainly for safety concerns. There was discussion with us about posing buses going in there, turning around, but for the most part, with what Brian was discussing is they come in, they unload, they back up, and basically park by the restroom area right now, as was where they have been parking. There are 4 home games for football each year, right now, and that's because we're in football. So you have 4 away, 4 home. So if anything that it would affect would probably be about 8 parking spots there. I think you guys have, there are 3 different designs on how they wanted to do it, but they wanted to do that. With that also, requesting if that, first of all, we have to have it requested. If it doesn't get shut down, then of course that denies anything else that they want to do. But with that, wanting to move the discus back to where it originally was, which was over on the T-ball field area, over just south of that fence there, south of that turnaround on the south side. The maintenance and things like that, I would expect, I'm not going to say that it's going to be the school right now because this has not been asked about from the school, it's been asked about by the track people to have that taken care of.
So the 3 different drawings we looked at, that was just, any one of those would work?
Yeah, basically what they're doing, and if you go to any other school right now, hardly any of them throw onto the grass anyway. They are throwing into basically the baseball dirt, like we have, like the red dirt that's here. Not necessarily it's red, but others have white, whatever it is, and then they go ahead and chalk it at each distance, so it's better, it's easier to see, or some rakes, you can rake it up. You start throwing it into the grass too. You throw 10 times in some area, you might hit that area, you might not. But basically, it's a safety concern, and also with this day and age of competitors, they're seeing a lot of competitors shot disc, pole vault, high jump, long jump, triple jump, and they may be clear over here, and they hear last call for so-and-so, and you gotta run, and you run out there, there's traffic going in between there, so.
Cody, my main question, is there not enough space to do it on those existing, I mean, the T-ball field is more in T-ball field shape, but then there's kind of the footprint of an old T-ball field more to the west. Will there not be space to have both there? You could leave that, the parking in the roundabout, that still connects with the existing field event area. I like the idea of having all the field.
So great
events.
question. So also another thing that you're looking at is when you go to these other track meets, and whether it's high school or not, they have 2 ways to throw because of the wind. So what they were looking at is putting the discus either on the south end of, I can call it the miners field or whatever that has the fence. There's a fence out there basically in center field. Placing a discus area there, throwing back to kind of the northwest, or back over where that one you can barely see is the field. Having it where you could throw basically to the southeast, just depending on what the wind is doing. We are looking at, I was going to get to it later, but I'll tell you this, in talking with the, basically the Elks baseball T-ball program, is we have some people that are willing to come in, basically box scrapers, level that out anyway, because there's a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but one of the fields over there goes up this way, and the other one is straight. Also, the sanders are kind of bad. We went out there, Mayor Joel and I went out there, walked. I think Sean was out there too in the park board. And we have sanders issues, but we're trying to get back into maybe making that into a multi-purpose area.
Yeah, there's no reason you couldn't throw shot disc up there at meets and still use it for T-ball, right?
Right, but again, looking at, you can't be throwing the, let's say, as I'm saying here, you can't be throwing the discus this way while somebody's throwing the shot put in the same area, and that creates a hazard, so that's why that area has been requested. So,
So you're looking at the shot put and the discus over there?
Yes.
And that stretch over.
yep.
And right now they're west, right? All the
Right now, they're all west of the football field, in fact, on the practice field area.
You can't move that out into the field without taking up the parking area and the roundabout?
Again, that just becomes a liability. You're having people throw the discus 176 feet, so if you, with the area there, again, safety issue comes back into play.
What are the measurements up there? Because I mean, presumably you
I don't have
two
those.
directions for both
What's
shot
that?
and disc, I would assume, is
What's
that?
that?
They're gonna have the two directional options for both shot and disc, right?
Shot put should usually only throw one direction.
Okay.
But there is three, if you see your packet, you guys have packet, there are three setups that they do have here to how they would throw. But disc is depending.
Those were for wind.
Yes, so basically one way, but it's just basically how it's set up right now. But basically, if the discus is out there, it will be a liability issue to have the shot put out there also.
You guys have any
I
other?
don't see.
I mean, I would like to see measurements on it, because we just have the triangle for the shot put in the parking area is all we've got. I would be to see that lineup, because you know, if they're going one way.
Are you worried about losing the 8 parking spots?
Like parking, places to turn around, it seems like.
You can barely turn around on the north end. There is a turnaround there, but you have to pull in. If you look on the opposite side there on the north side, there's a halfway turnaround there, but you can't make a complete turnaround there. If you guys see that if you see that on the north side where you used to be able to exit, back when I was in high school, you used to be able to exit
Yeah.
on that side. You cannot make a complete turnaround with a full-size vehicle unless you go ahead and pull over to the north, back up, and then head back to the west.
But we're not talking like.
I'm just saying, if you're worried about losing the turnaround, I'm just putting the same thing as on the north side.
I was just wondering if there's a way to do it without losing the turnaround. And still like, used to T-ball field.
Like I said, you get into those fields across that fence, and it don't matter which way they're throwing the discus, you're gonna be into an issue of throwing the discus towards the shot area.
My opinion is it's kind of useless space, in my opinion. I'm not totally against it. The idea.
I'm not totally against it either, it'd be nice to see how that fits measurement wise, you know, are we cutting it really close, or is it just they're throwing in the general direction? If there's a 3 times the distance of what any high schooler is gonna throw a discus,
I would tell you, if you're
that's a
throwing,
different question than if we've got 5 feet of room here, hopefully the people are.
I would tell you, if you're throwing from where you're at towards the north, where you want to maybe possibly put the shot in the pattern area right now, where you can see actually the good T-ball field, or what looks like a good T-ball field, which is covered with sandbars and stuff, that is gonna be in range.
I'm talking, you know, the shot, I assume the disc would be on what looks like the more developed T-ball field, correct?
No, it actually would be in your southeast corner and one in the northwest corner, opposite
Of
of each
that
other.
more developed T-ball field. That's what, I would like to see it, but what.
Yeah, well, I could do that
I'm a
vehicle
little
for it, 'cause-
confused too, where this is exactly.
Yeah, I can do it, like I said, this is just a print off I got. And the main thing is what they're, you know, if you shut off, great, if you can't, understandable. I'll just have to get with the guys again, get you a more detailed layout then again, so you understand the discus and the shot.
And then like as long, can they still use the T-ball field then, when they're done with track or whatever?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I don't know, I'd like to see a better layout, but, you know, I've got some complaints this summer that they didn't have enough fields to practice on, because this T-ball field was covered in sandbars. So if there's anything that we can dual purpose and,
Exactly, so that's what I was gonna get to later on, is the same thing as I mentioned. E&L has people that like to do in-kind donations, to bring in box scrapers, tractors, get that thing leveled out, get it reseeded, use it for T-ball field, use it, the track team could use it. You could put your younger soccer teams also on there also.
I really like
It's basically a multi-purpose area, but during track season, for basically practice and one track meet, is gonna be discus. area.
No, I think the idea of moving stuff over that way is a good idea. I just would like to see if it just seems like there's a lot of space between those two fields to throw in from the southeast. If your shot puts far in the northwest of that area, to me, granted, I'm not very good at looking at. the
Yep,
area
I can
and being
get
able to
that.
tell how far it is, but.
I can get with them and give you a better look at it there. Even that's what they're looking at there with the shot put area there, so.
Definitely like the idea though.
Have you guys ever, at a football game, been over on that south side?
Used to one.
It's not ideal. I've parked over there when we were using the Crow's Nest, and it's tight anyway, and then for anybody to try to turn around, you're running the risk of backing right into somebody. It is tight. It's not, it's like a 6 or 7 point turn with a pickup to try to get turned around right there. So, I mean, as far as what you benefit from parking, I'm not sure if you're not removing a danger area with the way you've got it. It's so tight in there.
And again, the other thing is too, I haven't confirmed this with the school, but with that now, I would think that you would have more parking availability on the practice field. Yeah, I mean, 8 cars, but like Greg said, right, the only time you can make a turnaround there, and you still can't, is when there's nobody parked there. So, we'll let you guys,
Yeah, I mean, you got support for the idea. I think folks just want a little more detail
Okay.
in that. And I think that's probably a good idea.
and before we wrap up the parks deal here, points of emphasis here. The first thing is, I handed you guys a new layout there of the basketball court, pickleball court, that we are looking to put in. I know you guys are coming up on budget year. We are trying to apply for that Nebraska Game and Parks Land and Conservation grant also. We do have money already donated for parts of this. The cost, each week we ask, or each month we ask, the cost changes. So, I mean, I can't give you a basic price on that right now. I'm talking to Lisa, the other thing is too, I don't know how much, if the city can take out the old concrete, take down the old fence, or if the contractor has to do it, so I don't know, you know, some of that money could be saved by if the city does some of the takeout itself. And I don't know how busy their schedules are. So that's our number one thing. We need to get that done as soon as possible. We've had money sitting for a while there.
Looking at this, it looks like it could be basically both are multi-use, where you got the 2 pickleballs and what could be tennis court markings as well, and then a pickleball and basketball.
Right, so basically a pickleball court, the actual dimensions are 20 feet wide, 44 feet long, and that's without having your place to go back to serve or to be outside of the net. So basically they say you need 30 by 60. 2 courts. The main thing that has to be done, I would say with this, is we've had donation money sent in for a basketball court in honor of a youngster.
Yeah. What is it, that blue and yellow, that's what that is?
Yeah, and that's just kind of
It's a
what,
pickleball.
that's what Robbie, who's on the park board, kind of drew up. If we get 2 pickleball courts in there and 1 basketball court, or if it's available to where we can pull the net down and have 2 pickleball courts and 1 basketball court when it's basketball only, so be it. The next thing is our second item that we want to get done is a walking track. It's going to be, I think, well used. I've seen a lot of people now that Highway 20 has been done. I have seen so many more people walking up and down Highway 20. We also are going to, we want to connect it to the Cowboy Trail, which you guys in your packets have that, and I have one laid out there in front of Joel. But basically comes past the from the Cowboy Trail out here east, past softball field, stops at a restroom, it continues on past the, hopefully, pickleball, basketball court. You can enter up towards the swimming pool, get out towards Highway 20, another bathroom, and then you're into town. Way back when, $68,000 was what we thought would cover that. And we were looking at 4 foot wide on the concrete. But again, by the time it's said and done,
Some of that depends on grants too.
Right,
If you
exactly.
call it an official trail, I think sometimes they're looking for 8 to 10 feet each.
right, so what we base this off is 4 feet wide. Basically is what you have right out here in front of the city building and over there, on the other side of the highway.
So we can work to flush that out somewhere.
So that was that.
Is that also, when you're talking about that also being tied in with maybe going around the fish pond?
Yes, so, but that's county, so,
Gotcha, okay.
so we can do, there is a road there, and then there's also the street in between Gracie and Lintz's that it could be some tied in, but then again, it gets into county. So we,
And just for your information, we're planning on putting a trail around the perimeter of the pond, and then accessing that trail, you'd be able to access it from the east parking lot, and then I'd like to connect it to that little asphalt road to the north of the pond, so that there's a way just to walk onto it or bike onto it, and
And
then
access
go
it.
around it, and then we'll have trails leading down to the water's edge.
We're gonna access, like, put another access to the Cowboy Trail on the south side of that pond also.
You know, there's one, if you go past the solar array and those two ball fields, there's access right there. And then there's a little bridge at the hospital. I don't have it in my plans to put because it's a deep ditch right there to the south of that fence, that you'd have to put a culvert, but, I mean, it'd be quite an expense to connect it right there to the Cowboy Trail, but there are access points both to the east and west of the hospital and just east of the pond, east of that solar array, which is where a current trail connects. So yeah, I hadn't planned on spending the money to build something right to the Cowboy Trail, right to the pond. Figure you can come in from the east or the west there, but thought that can't be done, it's just a matter of money and trying to do some of the priority parts first, seeing what we have left, or it could be a phase 2 or 3 or whatever, if people decide we wanna go that route.
so that's our second priority. Again, it could be more than that, don't know on the cost there. The next one, we're looking at our third option. Of course, we talked about this too. You guys sent out studies to the public, and so this has been done, what, a year and a half ago, Lisa? So these things are basically what we're going through now. Dog park with benches. Basically what we're looking at is just to the east side of the horseshoe pitching area, and which would move east towards, I don't know whose property that is, if it's Bill Carr's or who it is, towards that direction, but east of there. And putting a dog park there. One reason we thought there is you already have water there. You have a water hydrant there already. Also have trees already for shade, for people to sit underneath the benches. When I got an estimate that was around $10,000, just trying to get a ballpark. Again, we're a recommendation committee. We haven't went out and got secured anything. We're just recommendation committee. So it was about 10 grand by the time we got everything in there. One of the big things too we were thinking about is I'm going to skip over to number 5, is restroom out at the softball field. That one's getting pretty old. I also don't know how much you guys can do. It has to be a government contractor, what has to be done with that, but trying to upgrade that and do something different with that.
That's definitely needed.
Mhm.
It's been there a while.
Yes, it has. Ever since I worked there 30-some years ago, I believe. And then we've had a lot of requests on the batting cage. Basically, when you go into a bigger city, where you can basically walk into whatever it is, and you have options. Basically, have a batting cage with, you pop in $1, $5, whatever, and you get so many balls, and it goes through the batting cage. You go to the other end, of course, in bat, but it costs to do that. We've had a request for that somewhere in the park. The batting cage that's out there right now, it probably needs to be scrapped, in my mind. And again, then the other thing we're talking about is upgrading that T-ball field, is making it a multi-purpose area. So those are the things, a lot of maintenance could be going on with the, you know, there's a lot of things to consider on the those of what we have.
So the grant application that Cody is referring to is the same one that we were talking about, well, I think that was last month, actually.
Yeah, I was not able to make it here last month, and,
Tom
yeah.
Kicken was here from the golf course, talking about the same thing. Of course, the city owns that ground, so did the city in both of the applications. And I think there's limitations on how many times you can apply, so, we talked about, I guess, trying to figure out how to proceed with that. So now that we have kind of this list of priorities from the park board, I'll be working to get estimates, and so that hopefully in the near future, maybe we'll have somewhat of an idea, at least in terms of the city council, to decide what feasibly we can and can't do. That grant is a 50% matching grant. So, if you apply for $600,000, you gotta come up with $600,000. So, again, what's realistic, what can we do, what's the time frame that we can do it in? And so I think it will help once we get some price points.
Right.
And then we can kind of start on that conversation.
I want a clubhouse as much as anybody that loves to golf, but when you start adding the things that I don't know, last thing, what we put in, 2 disc golf things that are still out there, maybe 2 out there?
There's 3.
3, there's 3 out there. Okay, I don't know how much they get used, we put it in there, that was the thing that they kind of wanted. But it's been a long time since we've done anything, upgrades especially. That tennis court that's there now is 1974.
And in all the surveys that we have done, that is one of the first things that comes up is do something in that area. So, I think definitely that's a good place to start. I've already got some feelers out to some different companies to try to get some estimates on that project. And the walking trail might take a little bit more investigation, because there's a lot of different ways you can go with that, but I think we can probably get a pretty reasonable opinion of cost at some point to decide how we want to proceed with that. So hopefully in the near future, we'll have some dollar amounts where we can sit down and talk about that in a little more detail.
Yeah, and I want it to be reasonable. I mean, like she said, when you're applying for these grants, you have to come up with half the money, so $600,000 project, or $1 million project.
And depending on how the dollars shake out, it might even be just a capital improvement plan where it's a 3 to 5 year plan, and we do it in phases or something. But, we'll have a better idea of that hopefully in the next few weeks.
I'll be back then next month then, probably myself, Brian Delmont, with a better drawing and explanation of that for the track.
I appreciate all the work you guys have been doing on the fourth board, talking about these things, sorting some of them out. I think they're great ideas. And I believe we're going to be able to do a good portion of them. Not get everything, but I think we'll do some.
Yeah, and I would think that'd be great to recommend at least we put this into a 3 to 5 year plan with the top 2 things at least, or 1 or 2 getting done if we can.
I want to get at least the top 3.
Perfect. Hopefully we get the grant money.
Maybe more.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Cody.
Anything else?
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, thanks, Cody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, that's some good stuff. I think we can make some nice improvements, piggyback on some of the other things that are already happened in town and going on.
Now, you need quite a bit of room for a discus, because if these kids are throwing 160, 170 feet, you're gonna need minimum 200. Because what they measure is, they throw the discus, and where it hits the ground is the 160 or 70 feet, and then that sucker scoots another 20, 30,
Yeah, no,
40
you don't want to be
feet.
cutting it close. I would just like
To
to see
take
what,
out, yeah.
I'm not a good spatial.
I've seen them take out
feet.
ankles, and it's not a pretty thing.
Yeah, I just would like to see what their footprint is, because we don't have a footprint.
Yeah.
And outside
It would probably be a
football,
wide area
does
from what
that
I've seen.
little
That too.
portion of road ever get used out there?
Whenever there's T-ball.
If you've got T-ball, it would be
Would
bad
park
to have
around
some
there.
parking there, people be able to watch. I mean, I would at least like to see if they've done the measurements out there, if
Sure.
there is a way to fit it, just to,
I
if
just
it's
know I used to
rather than
park-
tear that up, if you tear that up, you tear it up.
I just know I used to park there for football, and if it wasn't me worried about hitting somebody else, it was worried about somebody else hitting me as they tried to back around in there. I just started parking over at the Legion Field when we were in the old Crow's Nest on that south side, but,
It's only a good roundabout when there's not
yeah,
vehicles packed in there.
yeah.
But the parking for the T-ball is a valid deal.
That is true, yeah, they're still
Yes.
using the Samber Field for T-ball.
Yeah, they might.
The other
Well,
thing that I
consider-
just thought of, and it might not be that big of a deal, but in terms of future land use, you know, if you're talking about things like a dog park and whatever, that are gonna go back here behind that T-ball field, I mean, what's your next access point for, you know, if you're going to the dog park, you're gonna park here, you're gonna be parking probably over by the
Horseshoe pit.
pits
Yeah,
and
horseshoe
walking
pits
back
and
up.
walking.
So, I mean, just things to think about logistically.
Yeah, that's why it's good to, there's nothing urgent about this, we can take time to measure it out, look at different options.
Yeah, the parking, they might be better off if there's room and is taking the shot put to towards the highway. They have that area out there on the north end that it's not an actual turnaround.
That one they can open, can they still open up the gate on
They-
the northeast side and
Yeah.
let people out that
They
way?
do that about once every 5 years.
Well, I'm guessing they will this year, they did during the playoff game,
Yeah.
I think, because it was so packed out there.
Yeah.
All right, next item on the agenda is, budget report from the Sand Hills Care Center. Okay. Visit with us.
Got a copy of the budget that Penny compiled.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got extra stuff.
Yeah. I guess the first thing you'll notice is basically how our budget runs is based on the number of residents we have. And we started here with 24 in July and ease up to 29 by the time the fiscal year runs out. Right now, today, we have 27. So we're setting good on that. The amounts are based on our average rate, which is at the bottom of the last page. It gives the average rates, daily rates for private pay and Medicaid there. And that is what that's based on. The $10,000 from the Brown County Foundation, I think it was 4 years ago, they upgraded the heating and air conditioning, and we got a loan. It's about $12,600 a year, and the Brown County Foundation provides $10,000 per year to help pay that off. And I think Lisa said that that money's in, and so for this year, and the loans due sometime in August, what I understand. What you won't notice there is the tax money. It wasn't included in the budget. It should be like, you would expect $100,000. We're gonna put that into the interlocal fund to use in case we run into shortages or maybe for some projects that we need to upgrade the facility. We've got some things that really need to be done, so we'll see where we sit on that at that point. Also, there's a little bit of Medicare money comes in. If somebody comes in and the Medicare only lasts like 10 days to a week, and so it runs anywhere from, it could be nothing to sometimes $30,000 a month. So that would be a little bonus that's not in here, but it's not something you can count on. So there is a little bit of extra money that could be available. As far as the operating expenses, they're just pretty much based off what it cost to operate during the last year. Just based out on a per resident basis. We did, a couple months ago, received $320,000 from the state Medicaid, and that's basically at the end of the year, they go through and evaluate what your costs were and what they paid, and then they make an allocation, and this year it was $320,000, which was way more than we were expecting. So what we did with that money is we went ahead and paid off the line of credit. So the line of credit is at 0 now. And then we did a couple small projects. We've had a cook stove that's been on the fritz and nobody had worked on it, so we're replacing that. And the cement out front looks bad and is also a safety issue, and so we're gonna get that cleaned up. Sean's taking care of that for us. And the other big thing is the roof after the hailstorm. It turns out we've got a huge deductible that's probably not gonna help us. So we're gonna be looking into paying that out of that, probably that $320,000 we received as well. As soon as we get figured out how the correct way we need to go about getting bids on that project. But other than that, I don't know. Do you have anything, Penny? I guess at this point, we're cautiously optimistic, you know. If we can, the consultant we hired has our break even of like 25 residents. I would feel comfortable for around 27. And I think if we can maintain that, we're pretty good. The management team has done a great job now. We haven't had any agency nurses since the beginning of the year or maybe before that, which was the big thing that really hurt us before. So
What's been the average month-to-month resident? You're at 27 now, has that stayed about that?
we went up to, I think we're up to 28 or something.
You've been up to 29.
Made it to 29.
For a few days. We were actually last week we were at 25.
Right.
So we got 2 admissions last week. So between that 25 and 27 is kind of where we've been in the last 6 months.
So you're 1 year into this, did your July numbers come out close to the projections? Maybe the actual numbers come out close to the budget?
We, I think we showed a slight loss.
Well,
In
we haven't
July. We
done-
don't have July
We don't
yet.
have July yet.
Don't have it
We
yet.
don't have those numbers yet, yeah.
And I was thinking, do you guys usually meet like the Monday before us? Are you meeting now next
Well,
Monday or?
Will be next month. It's the second Monday of the
Oh,
first month.
Yeah, it's an odd
Yeah.
month.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
End of the month was a Monday.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So it'll be Monday will be the
Okay,
meeting.
well, I'll ask that question next week then.
So. Okay,
They can
yeah,
hold
so what's
off.
it look like? Yeah,
And I mean, it's just 1 month, but I'm just curious.
yeah. Well, you know, with 27 residents, and I think there is some Medicare in there, I think we got a real good chance of being right there or something.
So after you found out you had a $100,000 deductible, have you changed insurance agents?
That is on the agenda this month to review. Yes,
That's how big your deductible is?
I guess so.
And
Why would you?
this would predate any of you, but I don't remember that ever being discussed in a care center board meeting where they sat there and said, yep, let's have $100,000 deductible. I've been at almost every one of those meetings and I would have been going, what?
Yeah, I don't
But
understand
I don't-
that. We probably should have our insurance review every year, I think, is probably what we learned from that deal. Because that hasn't been since I've been on the board.
That's roof only.
Is that roof on? I don't.
It was roof gutters, downspouts. But yeah, I think it pertained mainly to the roof. And I remember doing the roof
Or
last
not,
time.
not
and it wasn't
necessarily
half
the roof,
that
but the
cost.
type
So
of
it's like-
damage due to hail,
Oh,
wind.
it also, Penny says it also pertains to the type of damage.
What caused it. I think that's where, that's the caveat there.
You basically didn't have any insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless the whole building burned down.
Yeah. I didn't even have that.
Bite your tongue.
What's that?
Bite your tongue.
Yeah, yeah, we don't need that.
But I also think in order to get a better insurance plan, we have to replace that roof because nobody's gonna
Yes.
touch it with it being damaged. So I don't think that's a given, it has to be done.
I think that's #1 priority right now. We just need to figure out what the process is, how, we probably need to advertise bids and whatever. And I had a call into Andy Taylor and so far I've never got a call back. So I'm trying to figure that out. We'll know Monday what we need to do and get
Is there an
started.
estimate on replacing the roof?
What's that?
I mean, do you have any estimates on replacing our roof?
Well, we had some estimates, but they're above the county level, which, so we couldn't accept them, you know, so have to advertise. It's gonna be, it's somewhere in $60,000 range, I suppose.
It doesn't fall under any of the county or city buildings liability insurance?
No,
because it's 50% ownership between
Right.
county and city, so they're kind of their own entity, they have their own insurance. No one entity takes oversight necessarily, it's an equal ownership. So you have to toe the line for both county and city rules, but you kind of are also on your own a little bit.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're sitting, and I'm trying to figure out what we need to do. So what's the city rules then, as far as bidding something like that?
We would bid let that sealed bid, advertise sealed bid.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the same with the county.
Yeah, they have monetary levels you
Right.
have to meet. If it goes over so much, you have to go out for bid, you can't declare it an emergency.
Depending on what it is, but anything typically over 50, you
Yeah,
know, you probably would want to take a sealed bid.
it seems like the smart thing.
It
to do
seems
anyway.
irresponsible.
Yeah, responsible. So,
Should you review your whole insurance policies after?
I believe so.
I'll tell you one thing, I ain't doing it again. It was the hottest days of the year. Yeah, I did.
Just the only thing to
Like security.
consider, you know, is that, because I think this came up last time, the volunteers and stuff, and if people want to help, but if somebody's injured,
Yeah,
then you're responsible under workers'
yeah,
comp.
especially on a rookie project.
So I think that it really kind of is a detriment, I mean, in some ways, because it is nice for things like that, if you have people that want to help. Just keep that in mind.
Well, that kind of also goes in with, you know, the fact that we're gonna need to do it to renegotiate the insurance, and that's one thing they'll probably look at, you know, who's done it, was it somebody quote reputable?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you could always ask for references with your bid.
Do we need to approve anything on the budget, or is this really just more informational
I think it's
purposes?
more-
Yeah, I think you just, it's just a review.
It's separate.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks good, things kind of going quite well this year.
Staffing's still always an issue, but like I say, they continue to get through that without hiring agency nursing, so.
And I think they're not the only ones.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere,
It's everywhere.
but that's probably our number one issue.
See, the board's controlled what you guys can, and
Yeah.
some of that you got markets dictate. The nature of nursing home residents, you don't know, but,
Yeah.
yeah. So far, so good, so thank you all for that, and John, keep on that board, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next item is to discuss and consider proposals for annual audit services. Probably read, looked in your packet, but maybe Lisa's got some comments.
It's just, you know, we, 2019 was the last time we went out and had proposals made. So it seemed prudent for me to do it again. We have two proposals. One is from AMGL out of Grand Island. They're a firm, they service quite a lot of cities. You can see in their proposal, there's a list of other cities that they service. I've talked to some of those cities. They are very satisfied with the services that this group provides. So they, 3-year agreement, 17,000, year 1, 17,500 and 2, and 18,000 in year 3. The other proposal is from Dana Cole, who has been doing audit for the last many years. It's comparable, I guess, the year 1, 15,600, year 2, 17,200, and year 3, 18,900. So some variations, but at the end of the day, I think they're pretty comparable.
Yeah, about $1,000 difference, I think, over a 3-year period, so it's essentially no issue.
I don't know if council members have questions about either of these proposals.
No, not really, I mean, it just seems that we have had issues getting things done timely. cities that use the other firm, that's it.
The cities that I've talked to say yes, they're very prompt. The audit reports are filed on time. Very professional.
That's going with this other company.
Correct.
I know what we've been using in the struggle also is keeping that prompt. It's on Tiger Advance. It's a little bit more, it's prompt. It's on time, we want that.
I think it's another staffing issue, but, and I know it's hard to find help, you know, especially out here, it's hard to recruit, you know, people and get them trained and keep them, and, but it's been several years, he needs to have it.
To me, it's a lot of, well, I mean, there's cost involved with following up when you're not getting the reports filed, and when that's beyond our control, it's a lot of stress added, and so, yeah, I guess I would, if I was voting, I think I would work pretty hard at trying something.
Personally, I'm not, I don't work with them every day, so I have to go with Lisa's recommendation.
I would move to approve the proposal for AMGL CPAs and advisors for the annual audit services with a 3-year contract for 2023 through 2025.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion?
And just looking at some of the funds that we can't get until we have the time, we'd probably be further ahead on just interest and what it's gonna cost extra if it's taken an extra 6 months every year to do them, but.
I mean, I do kind of, I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, they're very helpful. They're very knowledgeable. We've been through a lot of different things with them, and they've always helped us through those things, but just the time really is.
What was that other company's name again?
AMGL.
AMGL.
All right, go ahead and call the roll.
Vance.
Yes.
Dustin.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. All right, next on the agenda is to discuss and consider ordinance number 1557. And it's,
So we haven't talked about, I mean, the council as a whole, I guess I would say, we haven't totally talked about this a lot. It came up a few times in the negotiations with the sheriff's office, kind of the way our code enforcement and ticketing structure works. Right now, and we've talked about this, council's past, and probably even this council, quite a bit, the frustration with nuisance properties, you know, how, you know, you take the time to go out and photograph and give notice, and, you know, they have 10 days to abate, they don't abate, you know, then the office has to follow back up again, and then at that point, a ticket can be issued, and they're given a court date to appeal, and, of course, may or may not appear, you know, we know how the court system works in that regard, so it's not a very fast process. And we also know sometimes they get in there and, you know, there's a lot of reasons given as to why properties can't be cleaned up, and, you know, for lack of better terminology, we don't have a lot of sympathy, I think, in the courtroom from the judge on that, and so we're not getting anywhere, we're spinning our wheels a lot. And then there's a lot of other examples, of course, just with other minor code violations that are handled in similar fashion, where administratively there's a lot of time being spent, but yet it, probably from a resident observation standpoint, we're not really getting anywhere. So this idea was kind of brought to us by the sheriff's office, of having the process changed a little bit so that basically the code enforcement would work more kind of like what happens with a speeding ticket, where, you know, you get pulled over if you're speeding, and then you're just ticketed immediately and fined for that violation. And that fine is set by preset, you know, depending on what your violation is, and then, you know, you just pay the fine. If you feel like that was improper, what have you, you have the right to the court date then to go and kind of appeal the ticket, if you will. That's essentially what this ordinance is doing here. I know the language is pretty small in terms of what parts of the code is actually changing. The biggest thing is the attachment that is the waiver fine schedule. So basically what the attached schedule is saying is it's citing the various municipal code portions that someone could violate. And if it is violated and the sheriff's office has to ticket them, that would be the automatic fine that they would receive for that violation. The sheriff's office thought this would help them be more efficient.
And do I see that was, I'm thinking the range of the fines was from $25 to $100, wasn't that about it? I mean, we're not talking about.
Right. And the city of Atkinson has this in place. Actually, most of the larger cities have this in place, but there are other second-class cities our size that have this, and Atkinson being one of them. So I did visit with the city of Atkinson. They shared their code schedule, fee schedule with me as well, and I compared and basically kind of modeled it after them. So we're really in the ballpark with what other communities our size are doing with this type of thing as well. So I did have Dibler look at it and Andy Taylor look at it. I didn't hear anything negative back from them that they didn't like it, so I guess that's what's being proposed here. So if you want to pass this amendment to the ordinance, it would change the process and give the sheriff's office the ability to issue the fines rather than having the judge issue the fine.
So basically just trying to streamline the process with.
And they still have due process. If they don't agree with the fine, they can still go to the court date and make their case. So it's not violating any due process rights. It's just, I think, trying to make it more efficient and maybe trying to curb repeat offenses by the same individuals if there's more of an automatic
Just looking at that schedule, I thought for a lot of those things, the fines seemed pretty mild compared to what, as far as if you were wanting this to serve as more of a deterrent,
Doubles.
the fine schedule looked pretty lenient.
Well, and, you know, Brett and I talked about that a little bit. Mostly, we didn't wanna, I guess, I should say, my impression was, we didn't wanna come off as though we weren't willing to work with people. You know, if you make a mistake, you know, like, you don't wanna be so chastising, but for the repeat offenders.
It did show it goes up for second offense.
So we threw in the fines double. And I think state statute requires a maximum you can be fined is $500. So basically, it would, every offense, it would double for them, I think up to that 500 per occurrence.
Because right, you know, the way a lot of those are, your court costs are higher than your fine.
Correct.
Many of those. But yeah, yeah, you're right, but if it increases on subsequent offenses, that may be a way to handle that without coming off.
So you don't want to punish, you know,
Too
people who
harsh.
are mostly, you know, doing the right thing, but definitely want to have it so that, yes, it curbs anybody who might want to continue to do those things.
For a really loud party, you can get a excessive noise permit for $50. If you're interested, I guess, but, no, I think, yeah, you gotta find that line between
And the
really throwing
council,
it up and give people a chance. I think it works. If those ever wanted to change, does it have to be ordinance, or is this similar to our other?
I would look at it like a fee schedule, the
That's
other
what I was
city fee
wondering.
schedule that we have. where it's an attachment, I'd have to ask Michael where it's an attachment to the ordinance. I would almost think that it is an amendment to the ordinance, and so either way, I would say that it's probably not something that's gonna change very often. And I guess for you guys, if you do have feedback, or you see something you don't like, or you think needs to be more or less, I mean, we can change that now, before it's adopted, but again, I was kind of going off of what Atkinson maybe had, and they have their own police department, of course, so it's not an exact situation like ours, but.
I know, and this was something that came up in the negotiations as far as, you know, we kind of asked them too if there's anything to help them enforce, to give us feedback, so I appreciate they did do that. I think this will help get the job done, which is what we want, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what wasn't that part of the deal, this is gonna make it, if, in the past, if an officer wrote a ticket, then he had all this paperwork he was looking forward to, whereas in this case, many of them won't involve that. Some of them may still involve a lot of paperwork, but others would be ticket, fine, done, so.
It's
It really
definitely-
depends on your judge too, on when it does go to court, on how keen they are on having some teeth to enforce. If they just take any excuse the person gives and gives them another 6 months, it's.
Yeah.
So they issue a ticket, you know, kind of like speeding. If you get a speeding ticket, you can go up to the courthouse and pay the fine, be done with it, or mail it. Maybe they mail it, and it's been a while, knock on wood. You know, now I'll find out.
Put that in the.
But it'll be the same thing.
Yeah,
If a ticket is issued for a barking dog for $25, you go up to the courthouse and pay it there.
So, let's say it's for overgrown vegetation or unmowed lawn or something that's a nuisance violation. So they pay the fine, haven't corrected it, how quickly does the sheriff's department then issue another fine? I mean, they obviously are gonna have, 30 days to either pay the fine or say they wanna go to court. But if they pay the fine, how often, if they just pay the fine and it's out of sight of mind, out of mind again, how long before the sheriff's department will issue a second citation with potentially that doubled?
We've talked about
Fine.
that. Of course, it's hard to set an exact timeline, you know, because a lot of it depends on what it is and weather and, whatever, but the conversation that we've had is, yes, with this in mind, they think it's going to make their job more efficient, their ability to do the job more efficient, and so I think his perspective was any follow-up attempts would be more efficient as well. So we're gonna try to keep on it to try to curb it, try to get it under control.
And when you have second offenses and things, is there a time frame attached to that? Let's even use like a barking dog. Okay, you get a barking dog, $25 fine, or a loose dog, $25 fine. Well, then maybe it's a year and a half later you get another one of those. That's still your second offense, or is it each year, or is that defined?
It's not
Not
defined,
defined.
so I would take that to mean any and all.
Anything, any
offenses.
subsequent offenses regardless of time frame.
And the original process won't change, they'd probably be warned or noticed first, it'd be a verbal warning first. If it's not corrected in that 10-day period or whatever, then they'll come back and get, so that's not being eliminated here. So there's still quite a bit of due process here, it's just the final end of it in terms of when they fail to abate and, or whatever, depending on what it is, obviously. It's just to try to streamline.
And so right now, they have to go to court. Yeah, you would think that would help reduce some of the court docket as well if they had this option. It'd be no different than if every person that got a speeding ticket had to go to a court date to get their fine. Makes sense.
So like your buildings that you're talking about, that falls under dangerous building category?
Right, yep, there's nuisances, which is 3-4.
Yeah, so someone doesn't mow their yard or whatever, and
That'd
they've
be
been
under-
warned, and that falls under just the nuisances?
Nuisances.
And then the buildings fall under dangerous building probably? Okay.
Anybody care to make a motion?
I would move to, approve,
Probably need to waive the 3 readings. Okay, sorry.
I would move to approve ordinance number 1557, amending sections 3-601 and 4-701 of the revised municipal code of the city of Ainsworth pertaining to waiver of court appearance for a violation of certain city ordinances and waive the 3 readings of that ordinance.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call roll.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Vance.
Motion carried unanimously. Thanks, Guy. Next is to discuss and consider an administrative subdivision for tract land. Well, it's the ambulance barn, and I think the next 1, 2, 3 items all pertain to that, so I guess we need to take them one at a time, but
So, yeah, we have been talking about this for a while now with the ambulance barn. And, I guess not to get totally into the weeds and rehash everything, but a quick reminder of why we're doing this. The existing ambulance barn, of course, is now torn down, and we're going to build a new one because that's basically a countywide service. The county commissioners approved bonding the new building, but technically speaking, the property was owned by the city. So after some meetings with the county commissioners, it was more or less agreed upon that the county would take ownership of that property for purposes of the bond and liability insurance and all that. So the way the lots were laying at the time, east and west, basically to split that and convey that, we had to replat and subdivide that lot off as its own parcel. So that's what you have here in this item, right? Let's see, I'm going on. Is to approve the new plat, the new legal description, and therefore approve the subdivision of that lot. Does anybody have any questions on the plat?
do we want to propose an action there?
Put the words here. I would move to approve the administrative subdivision for the tract of land identified as the east 45 feet of lots 9 and 10, block 29 of Falls addition to the city of Ainsworth, in Brown County, Nebraska.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Dustin.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
And before I forget, I did require all of your signatures on that.
So now we can consider ordinance number 1558 to convey that certain property, if you would desire.
I would move to approve ordinance 1558, confirming the conveyance of, I need to read the legal description or what is that? I guess I can. To convey the east 45 feet of lots 9 and 10 in block 29 of Falls addition to the city of Ainsworth, Nebraska, moving that to Brown County, Nebraska, and providing for the conditions of said conveyance. And with the 3 readings.
2 readings.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Let's call roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Dustin.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Good job on that motion there, by the way.
Well, that, I guess we got one more item on it, but this whole deal, I mean, ended up a lot better than us owning land and then owning a building that's being paid for by a third party technically, and
We get to drop that on their insurance and stuff, right?
yeah, I financially it's not gonna be that big of a deal for our bottom line, but just for logistics of everybody working together, it's just gonna be something to stay out of it, rather than have 3 entities that can have 2 entities and figure it out between them.
So the conveyance is gonna, conveyance will be through quick claim, so since you've approved the conveyance, Joel can sign the quick claim and then it'll be filed. We'll take care of it. Michael did, recommend, since the plan for the new barn is to basically attach to the existing fire hall and have an interior shared wall, he suggested a party wall agreement between the city and the county. That's basically just saying who's responsible for maintenance and repairs on that shared wall. And I think the way he has this worded is that basically we agree that it's more like, what, 50, agree structural support wall shall be a party wall, and that will maintain, keep it in repair at joint expense. That way there's no argument, I guess, down the road if something happens, like, who's responsible for it, so. It's probably a good idea.
So the outer wall of the fire hall becomes the inner wall of the, okay, so,
Yeah.
okay. They're not just abutting, they're actually using the.
That was my understanding from Ann, is that
Okay.
it's actually a combined interior wall then. Unless I misunderstood.
That was my understanding, isn't there gonna be like a door on that, have a door in there to have access through to both? That's what
I don't-
thought.
I must have misunderstood Kelly Cobb then, because it sounds like the ambulance barn is going to be its own structure even up against the fire. Oh, but, or maybe there's just, I don't know.
I thought I understood it as the roof line was an extension.
Yeah, I always thought it was basically they're putting up 3 walls. The existing, what will be
Maybe,
west
maybe
wall of
that's
the ambulance barn will be
changed.
east wall.
I don't know. Doesn't hurt to have a place just in case.
I was gonna say,
Ended up not
at any
being
rate,
cut down.
if we approve it and that's not the case, I guess it's just.
Yeah,
normal.
sure.
Be really clear whose walls we're taking care of, I guess, at that point.
He was saying that I thought the fire hall would be, or the ambulance barn will be shorter than the fire hall. You know, their roof line comes to here, and the ambulance barn will come to here on that common wall.
Huh.
So they're gonna have to have some sort of supports up against there to support their roof.
But you'd think it's not gonna tie into theirs.
Yeah, I don't know. They're still waiting for the ground to dry so they can do cement work, so. But like I said, this is just conversation, I just stopped and he was down by that building, so we just chatted, but.
Well, I think I would recommend that you go ahead and consider approving this, and then if that turns out to not be the case, it's just null and void, because we don't actually have a shared.
Wouldn't have it.
Yeah, I would move to approve the party wall agreement with Brown County for the property of the ambulance and fire hall.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call roll.
Vance,
Yes.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
I'm glad Vance is making his motion.
I'm just waiting for
Slightest
someone to
idea
read
of word
something.
Next item is resolution number 23-04. Financial agreement with the state of Nebraska on the Highway 7 project.
So, this is very similar to what happened with Highway 20 a couple of years ago, where we had certain overlap in project expenses, you know, what the state was already doing versus what the city wanted done in conjunction with the DOT bid. So that is what this is about for Main Street, when we do that next year, hopefully. So this is walking through basically that more or less the state, of course, is the bid letter, and these items that are essentially upgrades to what the state would already be doing that we're agreeing to pay for them, because of course, as the bid letter, they will award the contract, and therefore they will be the ones paying the bill. So we're saying we will pay you so you can pay them, more or less. They do have some estimates of costs in here, of course, in terms of what the city's sum will be. I've been working with Mark and Jess at Olson's and Amber at CNET, so these numbers pretty well jive with everything that we had thought for grant purposes that we were trying to put together. So, and these are projections, these aren't necessarily solid. Of course, we won't know that until the bid comes in. But does anybody have any questions, I guess, about this?
Has the attorney reviewed it and looked through and make sure it was all nothing?
I guess I did not ask Michael to review it, mostly because it's basically the same thing that we did on Highway 20. I mean, if you want him to review it, I guess we can do that.
Well, really, like I said, this is just authorizing us to pay them, where we're working together, rather than.
It's just agreeing that we're gonna uphold our, I think financially, our end of the deal. There's a lot of other jargon in here, of course, because it is a state project, that talks about responsibilities and, right of way. I think even the detour is mentioned in here. I guess nothing stuck out as odd, or I should say from what we did in the Highway 20 project, nothing stuck out as different or odd to me, but there are some terms in here in terms of how they will invoice us and how we would pay that. Depending on grant funding, you know, a lot of CDBG grant is reimbursement. You have to pay it and then request the drawdown to be reimbursed, so there will be a lag. So depending on how that works, we might have to talk about down the road interim financing, but those are all pieces that we'll have a better idea of as the project gets closer, whether or not we're gonna need that, or if we can float it until we get the reimbursement if we get those funds. Fair employment, disadvantaged businesses, these are like state statutes. I'm sure this is obligatory language because it's a state project. No discrimination.
Yeah, I guess I'd be comfortable with it since we just did it with the DOT, and like I said, it's just agreeing to pay our portion.
And everything in here is all the things that were presented to you guys in the Olson presentation. So it was, of course, the sanitary sewer and the water, that is already designed, and Olson, and we have SRF funds in place for those costs. The landscaping was in the Olson streetscape plan that we voted and talked about that. The the upgrades to the street lighting, that's all based off of those prior meetings, crosswalks, same. And Mark has in here, so you can see the cost share, you know, on the street lighting, the state will pay for whatever that amount is, that is the standard lighting, and then the city's on the hook for the difference. So he's kind of got that explained here. And same with the crosswalks. We wanted to do that upgraded colored concrete on the crosswalks, and so basically that doubled the price, so that the state will pay for that first 57, the city's on the hook for the other 57. And then there is a bunch of engineering in here, because again, it's going in with the state. So the state will have oversight of the contractor. So these are not Olson fees, these are state construction engineering fees, which, I know, it is what it is.
I move to approve resolution 23-04, resolution authorizing the signing of the municipality financial agreement with the state of Nebraska, the Department of Transportation for project STP 7-4, Zone 12, control number 8080.
Second.
I thought you were gonna jump in and do that, I was waiting.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Call roll.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Vance.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Moving on. Consider approval of the community development block grant drawdown.
Okay, so this is the final draw for, the Public Works grant that we did for the big sewer project, where we did the CIPP lining lift stations. Of course, that's been completed for over a year now. But there's a lot of residual work, even when the project's done, that a grant administrator does, and they can bill for that if there's money left in that 25% that they're allotted. So that's what this is. It's the final bill, the funds that were left for general administration, $467.50. So we should not have another one of these for that project. It should be done.
These are, within the last couple of months is when they started.
Yeah, we didn't used to have to bring these to the council, and so we would just run them through the claims.
See a lot of them, right?
There's gonna be a lot of them, potentially, yes. Sorry.
All right, I would move to approve the drawdown number 8 for grant project 18-WW-01 in the amount of $467.50 for general grant administration services from Central Nebraska Economic Development District.
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Call roll.
Sean,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Dustin.
Yes. Motion carried unanimously. The next item was to discuss the community survey results, and we actually didn't receive that report until today. Lisa hasn't really had a chance to get into it, so I would recommend that we postpone that item to the next meeting. If you wanna, somebody'd like to make that motion.
Move to table it to next month to give the office time to compile results and give a report to us, so.
Motion and second to table. Call roll.
Vance,
Yes.
Dustin,
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously, which brings us to the highlight of the evening.
Oh, sure.
Our city administrators.
Everyone's favorite part. Kind of busy month. There's just a lot going on. Seems like there's a lot of motion. We're not getting anywhere, but it's a lot of planning and discussing and strategizing, if you will. Had a meeting with Kristen and Bill and Sheriff Deibler, kind of talking about, we've got, as a community, we have all these pieces. how do we, work together, put them together, what's the best strategy, who can do what, when and where, and that sort of thing, to try to get some things going. NCDC has the Workforce Housing Fund, we have the vacant building registries, and they're looking for sites, and we've got all these tools, it's just finding a way to efficiently put them together and kind of make everything hopefully click together to provide a good outcome for everybody. So we were talking about different ideas, things we can do to try to get some things moving in that regard. So I think it was a positive meeting. At the end of the day, where the city doesn't own any of these properties, it's still going to be a lot of coordinating, meeting, discussing, trying to get agreements, with different parties. So hopefully Kristen and I will be able to work together and try to get something moving there. I think there's definite possibilities there. We just gotta find a way to kind of get it moving.
There were some conflicts today, so NCDC did not meet, but talking to Kristen, there's been a lot of interest already from developers on using the rural workforce housing funds. We were concerned because we've got to get a couple projects done and get those funds allocated within 12 months, or there's a time frame.
How much
So-
funds is available?
What's that?
How much funds is available?
Between basically Brown and Rock County raised around 163 or 4,000. State doubled that to 320 some, so there's just shy of $500,000 that'll be available. State,
Building projects?
yeah.
Building or
Building, then there is rehab portion, but I think the goal with the first, to get the money allocated is to try to have a couple of building projects going with it.
What kind of, it's just in the city limits, or?
Anywhere within Brown and Rock County,
Yes.
that's how I understood it.
Yeah, Brown and Rock County, because those were the two counties that donated funds toward.
Kristen, when I talked to her last, she said something about having to be within the 1 mile jurisdiction.
Of the city.
Which I thought too, it was gonna be anywhere within the county, but.
No, I think it is a 1 mile. I think it is a 1 mile in both communities, because I think that was the case. We did include Kippahaw County in the overall plan where they didn't put any money toward
Well, they don't.
the match. They didn't really.
Wasn't it something with their housing study, they need to get.
Yeah, they had to have a
qualified
housing
for the
study
city.
done. So, but there has been interest, and there have been some applications that have gone out, and so I think we have some developers who are, and what it's basically is cheap money to borrow to build
Isn't
it.
that like the 18-month?
Yeah. Something, yeah, it's very, very, very little interest, and it's, I don't know exactly, we haven't had a meeting for a couple months on it, so as far as exactly knowing all the terms, but yeah, it's basically cheap builder's money, and then it gets paid back when the property's sold, basically, is what it amounts to. With trying to finance a project and develop something before you sell it, this is gonna be a pretty attractive option with interest rates what they are, so. But it sounds, I don't wanna go on about it, but there has been some interest already shown, so.
Yeah, well, it's a good opportunity, certainly for the city, and I feel like all the pieces are right there. It's just a matter of trying to get them put together.
And the biggest thing is gonna be finding a suitable site, so just like you mentioned, hopefully we can find get something targeted with whoever the developer is gonna be that's selected, and they have a proposal on a site.
Yeah, I think the hope is, or at least my hope was, that we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone type of a situation, and I've talked to a lot of people on the vacant building registry that they really kind of do want to get out from under their properties. There's a couple sites that I think are big enough. It's just, I think, a matter of getting that worked through, kind of getting the logistics figured out, having those conversations. So that's what we're working towards.
And I believe we still do have a little bit of ABC demo money still available. There's been 4 or 5 projects where that's gone out the door on, but I think there's enough that could potentially, if we need some help with clearing a site, or moving one of those vacant properties from the registry and having that be the site, there's still a little bit of money, I think, left that could go toward part of that too, that would help in the demolition, because basically you're, with the rural workforce housing, you're capped at a total amount for a project. I wanna say, is it 320 or something, yeah, somewhere around there. So if you can have a site donated and have some of the demo work donated, that you can do a little better project as opposed to that counting towards your project cap, so.
So we're trying to make some progress there anyway. That'll be an ongoing conversation, and I'm sure we'll continue here. Just, I guess a heads up to the council, that we have had some issues with the new garbage truck with the air conditioning, a couple of other minor things that were able to be fixed, but the air conditioning has been an ongoing frustration, I think. We've been working with McQueen without getting into the weeds a whole lot on the issue. Kind of been getting the runaround, I guess, for lack of a better term. I'm hoping we're gonna get somewhere pretty soon with it, so I've got, had a couple of meetings. We had McQueen actually come out, a guy come out, they sent a technician out. I don't know, we're working on it, but I just wanted to make you aware of that, I guess. That it's an ongoing thing. Hopefully we will, the work really should be warrantied. We're talking about that as well. Technically, the warranty has expired. But we've been having this issue for a while and just not getting technical response on it. So I'm working with them to hopefully ensure that the work is still warrantied. So it's just an ongoing thing. We'll see where it goes. I'll let you know if we have more issues or if we end up getting it resolved. But again, the park, worked with the park board quite a bit. Reach out to some companies to start working on some estimates. I'm sure we'll talk about that more when we do the budget. Working on the budget. Downtown revitalization grant application. I've been doing a lot of work on that with CNED and Mark and Olson's, and coming up with numbers and trying to pin all of that down. And I just wanted to add in here, thanks to everybody for the golf outing on Friday. Had a lot of positive feedback from the employees. They had a really good time, they enjoyed it, appreciated it, so thanks for that. It was a good time.
Yeah, you guys, you girls did a nice job of planning that. That was a good thing. I thought everybody seemed to be appreciative and having a good time, so that's good.
Yeah, every year, it seems like everybody, we've had better, this is the third year we've done it, and we had the best turnout this year. Every year, there's more people come, so that's good, positive. I think we only had, 5 not come, and that's including 6, including elected officials, so. Pretty good.
Guess that's about it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'll make an announcement, an off-agenda announcement. Probably people have been suspecting it, but I'll be moving out of city limits, so due to state statutes, I will no longer be eligible to serve. And that move is planning, hopefully, this weekend, before we start to get out there, so. I don't know what the official process is, if I need to send Joel a letter and tell him where to put it, but.
We can figure that out.
Really, I just didn't want to see all these drawdown requests coming in. I just figured I better get out before those start rolling. Now, it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve the town. Hopefully, we did some things to improve it over the last couple of years. Wish I could keep going. If circumstances were different, I would be, but sometimes things don't go as planned, but it's been good, and I think there's a lot of positive things happening in town. Look forward to seeing it when I'm in town every day, so.
Well, appreciate your service. Done a great job as a councilman. And we'll continue to seek your input, even though you're not officially a council member. Just like all community members, right? Everybody has a chance to.
So when's the retirement party?
I don't we gotta have one of those.
Will you have that on agenda next month then for a recommended appointment?
I'll
Is that
have to,
how that works?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, yeah, I guess, if anybody knows folks that are interested, send them my way, but I've been thinking about events. Rini was kind enough to let me know a while back, so I've been mulling some things over, but, yeah, we'll try to come up with something for next meeting. I guess with that, we don't, seeing nothing else on the agenda, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:30. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.